And Karl Rove, Fox News contributor. And Karl, good morning to you. Two things I'll get to. If you listen carefully to KJP, she said was never in business. And this gets back to a bit of, words are important. Speaking of words, Bill McGurn writes this: Hunter Biden's bargain plea. Does anyone still believe Joe's claim he never discussed his son's business? Key graph. The burden of proof has shifted. With each hearing, Congress has unearthed troubling allegations that are increasingly specific and backed up by witnesses. The more we know, the harder it is to believe Joe Biden's assertion that he never discussed business with Hunter. Do you believe that the ground has shifted, Karl?
Oh, I believe it has, and it should, because remember, Devon Archer joins the board of Burisma in like January of 2014. He brings Hunter into the board like in March. It's publicly announced in May. And the Vice President of the United States, the father of Hunter Biden, is in charge of the administration's efforts to encourage the Ukrainian government to crack down more forcefully on corruption. And yet, one of the targets of the corruption probes in Ukraine is Burisma. Now, how could Hunter Biden's involvement in Burisma never become a subject of conversation between his father and him when his father knows that he's on the board of a corrupt board? And it also raises the question, did anybody in the Obama White House ever visit with Vice President Biden and say, it's a problem that your son is on this board? I believe that there were such conversations. I hope that we find out whether or not there were in the months ahead.
What do you think about when Kevin McCarthy last night on Hannity was talking about the possibility of starting these impeachment inquiries about Joe Biden?
Well, I took away from that was some time off, because there needs to be more evidence found. The conversation with Devon Archer is going to be important. The Weiss, the U.S. attorney's conversation, testimony before the committee is going to be important. That's not going to take place until September or maybe even October. But clearly, there's something sleazy here, and it has been sleazy for years. I mean, just simply, when Vice President Biden went to Ukraine in 2015, the fall of 2015, he was criticized by Ukrainian NGOs, non-government organizations, who were helping in the anti-corruption fight, for being the U.S. representative on this issue when his son was on the corrupt board of the corrupt company. I mean, this is like, please, were you that tone deaf or poorly briefed? No, I think he knew his son was on the board and basically dismissed it. His son was making good money. Why bother about it?
Karl, I also wanted to ask you about this revelation that Hunter Biden's art, this one piece of art, sold to a Democratic donor, a major donor. I think it was like $1.3 million. Several months later, after that art went on sale, the president appointed the woman to the Commission for the Preservation of America's Heritage Abroad. And what do you think of that?
Well, the key question here is, who knew what? Because there's some evidence that Hunter Biden knew that she was buying his art. And, if these things were totally disconnected, she loved his art and bought a bunch of it and then got put on the board and nobody in the White House knew about it, well, it's a coincidence. But there's some evidence, and we need to find out if it's accurate, that Hunter Biden knew that she was selling the art. And in that case, did his father know, or did people inside the White House know that she was buying the art? But look, the whole thing about the art is just, again, it's sleazy. The president's son has little or no artistic ability, and people are paying big sums of money for his art. And in fact, what was demeaning to me was that in the settlement with the mother of his child, the president's grandchild, whom he refuses to acknowledge, part of the payment was in the form of art from Hunter Biden. Now, was that meant to be a gift to his daughter, or was that meant to be something that could be used to sell for money? To support the child? I don't know, but either way, it just continues to be sleazy.
Yeah, the same woman, Elizabeth Naftali, held a fundraiser in L.A. for Kamala Harris. So I mean, she's all around the executives at the White House today. Karl, thank you. Come on back. We'll talk about the big debate coming up in 29 days as well. Nice to see you today in Austin.
Have a
great to see you. And that blue dress is terrific.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thanks for noticing.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.